Welcome everybody. Super excited this morning in Vancouver, or this afternoon, evening in Europe and other places, to have Mark and our great partner IMGS to present what I think was one of the best talks at our peak of data integration in Bonn this year. It really illustrated the power of FME Flow web apps, and so we reached out, and they're kind enough to do it for us here this morning. So, and this one, yeah, the title says it all, so I won't read the title, but I'm really excited about this one. So
that's very high praise, Don. I'll take it gladly.
So I guess we should introduce our as it is there. So yeah, take it away, Gavin.
Gavin from IMGS. I'm CTO, and I guess I'm probably responsible for most of the FME parts in there over the last far too many years. There's too many grey hairs now to count, but mostly it's keeping Garen in line.
Absolutely far too many years, and we won't say it on a webinar. I'm Gareth Cronin. I'm the commercial manager at IMGS, and I work side by side with Gavin with our customers to support them on any solutions they need to deploy from an FME perspective. Mark?
Yeah, hiya. I'm Mark, Dublin City Council. We're delighted with this. This has brought us kicking and streaming into the 21st or 22nd century, should I say, for us. We're delighted with it. It's excellent. Yeah, and I look after ground crew, probably about 300 staff on the ground, and this is where this is being deployed.
Yeah. And I'm Don Murray, and I haven't been doing this long enough. And I have no gray hair, so I'm proud to say that. So so I'm one of the founders of SAFE, and I just love the opportunity to get in front of a webinar with, great partners and a customer who can really share the magic that they have done. So the agenda, we're going to quick introduction. I think we're almost done that, and then we're going to get right into the meat of it. And then not much on FME or SAFE, and then we'll have some conclusions and that sort of thing. So really focusing on the great work that's been done by the other folks on this call. So Elizabeth.
Yeah, so if you're newer to the Livestorm platform, just a few pointers here. If you have any audio issues throughout, you can click the help button on the bottom left for 4 simple steps. Share your reactions with us during the webinar. I already saw some laughing emojis come in at Dawn's gray hair comment. That's great. Chat, keep letting us know where you're tuning in from there. Leave comments. If you have any questions throughout, please drop those in the questions panel. We will have time at the end for those as well. And we do have a poll coming up, so keep an eye on that polls tab. And at this point, I will go ahead and get our presenters to turn off their webcams just to save on some bandwidth. And we'll see you at the end for Q&A. Perfect. And we have our poll here. I will go ahead and publish that. So if everyone wants to head on over to the polls tab here, we can take a look. So we're wondering today, how do you currently empower self-service for business users? Give everyone a moment there to place their vote. All right, it looks like pretty split actually between ad hoc requests to GIS, ICT, and we don't at the moment. So definitely some opportunity there.
Absolutely.
Ad hoc requests is coming out in the lead, it looks like.
Okay.
Awesome. Most people have voted now, so thanks everyone. We appreciate that insight.
Okay, so I'll take it away now. So this quick introduction, really what this whole webinar is about is enabling you to, to really remove a lot of the hassle and expense, for people who are working in your city, but also not having to deal with custom code, so that you can build these things quickly and efficiently with no-code web apps. And that's exactly what they're going to walk us through step by step. And here's our product slide. And just in case people aren't aware of what they're using here, so you're going to see FME Form and FME Flow both used during this. FME Flow for the web apps part, and FME Form is where all the work of pulling everything together is done, and then FME Flow is a harness that just makes it self-serve, yeah, and the web apps. Okay, and with that, we'll hand it off to the other folks.
So yeah, Mark, if you want to tell us a little bit about Dublin City Council.
Yeah, we're the largest local authority in Ireland. We employ over 6,000 staff members, as you can see on the slide in front of you there. We provide about over 500 services to Dublin, the citizens of Dublin. They range from community services, roads, traffic, so on, planning, culture, and many more. I'll go into them all. Yeah, one of our services is providing public housing. We would have a large portfolio of houses, and 27,000 plus and growing. It sort of makes us the biggest landlord in the country. We are responsible for repairing and maintaining, and of course updating this 27,000 stock of housing. We do that with 300 tradespeople and operations on the ground, and then of course admin staff. Our jurisdiction is broken into 8 administration areas, although recently, you might see there, we've amalgamated 5 depots into one on the north side of the city. So we're trying to make things streamline our process, and this app has been a big help in that for us. If you want to jump on there, Gareth, to the next bit. Before the arrival of this wonderful application, we had our citizens, the process we used to use was our citizens call in to report repair, and that could be anything from a tap broken or no water in the house or anything. The council staff would log this repair request on our open house maintenance system, or OWNS as we call it. The requests are then picked up in each of the 8 depots and printed off on an A4 sheet by our foreman. They're then handed out to either a trades, well, they're all tradespeople, contractors or direct labour. When they go out and do the job on site, then they write on the back of the sheet, if you like. You can see some of the sheets in the photographs there, and they mark down materials they use, things like that, and that the job was completed or it's followed on for more work. The tradesperson will come back at the end of the week or the end of the day the next morning and hand them back to the foreman. The foreman then go onto our open house maintenance system, our OWNS, and complete the job. So if you can imagine, that's a delay of 24 hours and sometimes 5 days, 4 days, could be anything. These jobs are marked off the system, and it's the way we keep stats, so our information wouldn't be kept up to date really. And as you can see, it's very, very manual process. Yeah, that's it. Me.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
So as Mark just mentioned there, the process was very, very manual. It was time consuming. It was cost intensive, having to have all these tradespeople drive to the depot in order to receive this physical job, to then go out into the field and, like Mark had said, maybe have 10, 15 jobs that week, fill out all these pieces of paper that would probably sit in the work van, and that kind of constituted the slow time to insights. And that was probably one of the biggest challenges for the team. Was that slow time to insight, not understanding what jobs had been processed for the citizen, what was outstanding, what was put on hold, etc. So the team in Dublin City Council, as one of the trusted advisors, came to us and asked us if it was something that we think we could tackle. The Dublin City Council is a very mature organisation, and there's a lot of applications that they could have used to be able to tackle something like this. But for ourselves in IMGS, we asked ourselves, why FME? And I suppose for ourselves, it's that understanding that we know that FME is more than just a data mover. We've been a partner for over 20 years of Safe Software, and obviously we look after all local authorities in Ireland, as long as most of the government agencies and utilities, etc. So we've come across these projects or use cases that are ripe for digital transformation quite often. So we knew FME was more than just a data mover, and I'd say most of the people on the webinar today or watching it later on are guilty of just using FME to push and pull data around their organization. I'm sure some people are even guiltier and they're only using it to push and pull geospatial data around the organization. But lucky enough, from our experience, we knew that FME could be used to provide enterprise web applications. So as kind of Don alluded to at the very, very beginning, yes, this is a very specific use case, but in Ireland, what would be quite popular, especially in local government and utilities, is to create these web applications that address just very, very basic needs. Like some councils would have the ability to be able to drag in a shapefile in a particular coordinate system, have it reproject automatically, so that they don't have to have those ad hoc service requests, which is obviously the most popular, which we've seen or have seen traditionally in Ireland. But again, for yourself and your own organization. So it's sitting down and realizing that you can quite quickly, through a no-code environment, pull together these self-service portals. Specific for Dublin City Council, we have 2 workflows, which Gavin will get into in a little bit more detail. One is for the foreperson to be able to come in and see the list of jobs, what's pending, what's been allocated, what's been put on hold for example, if they didn't have a part. But then also for the tradespeople out in the field to be able to wake up in the morning and through an app on their phone, a progressive web app, click a button and see all the jobs that have been assigned to them, to be able to click on a button to get turn-by-turn navigation to the citizen's house, to be able to call them, etc., all through this interface. So this is probably a more complex version of what can be done, but again, for your day-to-day use cases for self-service reporting portals, etc., it's perfect. We're also lucky from a local government or from a licensing perspective that Dublin City Council are also on a local government FME subscription. For ourselves, when we first spoke with Mark and the wider team, it allowed us to quite quickly put a prototype of the solution together, so we didn't have to go to procurement to ask for budget for licenses, etc. We could, with the enterprise agreement, we were able to order some licenses, have them in less than 24 hours for us to start that prototype. And you'll see that prototype from its humble beginnings, which Gavin's going to show, and I won't steal any of his thunder, to where it is today. We also, when going back to that why FME, it was well established in Dublin City Council. They've been using it for probably close to 18, 19 years now, so it's trusted by both GIS and IT and the wider enterprise. I think there's over 500,000 FME workspaces run every year. It's incredible, and that number just grows year on year. So we didn't have to convince anybody of why we were choosing FME or have to take in multiple applications to try get this to work. We knew end to end with FME we could deliver this digital transformation project for the team in Dublin City Council. So I'm going to hand over to Gavin now, and Gavin's going to talk about the initial scope and a little bit more detail into how we brought it all together for the team.
Thank you. So as Garrett was mentioning, it was very much a case of we had an initial concept of what we wanted to do and what we were trying to build out with the process. So we knew that obviously we have the staff, so we have the foremen, we have the trades guys out in the field. Obviously, we need to come up with a process to allow them to manage their jobs, to be able to do update statuses as well. So once they completed the job, obviously we wanted to bring that back into that process. Obviously, we knew we could use FME to do that, not just to deliver the front end capability, but also to handle the interactions back into the OHM's infrastructure. So there's an existing system there that we needed to integrate with. So FME made it the perfect platform to actually be able to make those connections as well. OHM's has an Oracle database under the hood. So obviously FME, that's really bread and butter talking to the Oracle data. So we could move data in and out of that, with reasonable ease to bring it into this new system. So it allowed us to do that integration level as well with the rest of the process flow. So our initial concept was thinking, well, actually we have these FME Flow apps. They're really, really powerful. We can do a lot of data entry with them. We can also then roll these out to mobile devices. So we've got the mobiles, we can use that in combination with the FME mobile app and actually get that data out into the field. So that was kind of where the initial thinking was coming from. Also, the tradespeople don't have Active Directory accounts. They have no email address. They have no login for any of the DCC infrastructure at the start of the project. So it was a case of, well, how are we actually going to make or give these users some identity? So again, it's like, well, FME has all of that built in. That's kind of off the shelf. So we can leverage FME's existing users, roles, and permissions, and actually put that into the process. And again, there wasn't really any infrastructure because the guys out in the field have no access onto DCC's existing infrastructure. So we're thinking, well, that's a really good example of where FME Flow Hosted would come in. We could actually leverage the cloud. They'd all be able to interact with that standalone platform, and we can build out from there as part of this. That's evolved. The project took slightly longer than obviously everybody would hope, but the benefit from that was actually, because the project took slightly longer, all of those users did actually start to become part of the digital environment within DCC. So they had access to things like their own mobile devices, they had VPN connections, and that really started to open things up as the project moved forwards. But initially we had that kind of where we were coming from. But as we were thinking more and more about this, it's like, well, we know we've got things like the gallery apps. They give us a really good entry point to actually start to push this content out to users. But we've also got all of the capabilities that FME has for delivering things like HTML, for web services, JSON, and actually managing all of those data flows. So as we started to dig more and more into the requirements, it obviously grew a little bit more in complexity. But we started out with a really initial proof of concept. So we're able to stand up a server app really, really quickly, get all of this together, start to bring all the job information, prove that we could access that data, present that up to the users so they could come in, they could use the kind of basic website that we'd built here off the back of FME, and they could then view the jobs. They could start to assign jobs to different users. So, a depot person can come in and decide that, job A needs to go to person B and things as well as part of that. And it was really good in that it was actually able to get that out to the users to start to get some feedback about what they liked, what they didn't like, what worked well and what didn't work well. Obviously, as that was going through, it's the classic scope creep. There was really, really good take up. Everybody really, really liked what was on offer. But obviously, they wanted it to look slightly more slick. They wanted it to flow a little bit more neatly. So it really did start to evolve. And this is where we came up with this kind of concept of leveraging a single page web application, which is basically a single web page that can be delivered by something like FME's data streaming service into a web client that users can then start to interact with. So it looks and feels a little bit nicer than what we were looking at previously, this being a vanilla HTML page. It's a bit more dynamic, but it's all still driven by FME and FME web services under the hood as part of this process. So that really high level, we've got that web page application. Once we've streamed that web page application out to the user, all of the data that needs to come in from that, again, is just coming in via JSON. And again, FME is a really good platform to actually build out those web services and to deliver those web services into that client. So once that came in, we could just consume all those web services. And again, that's talking to the back end. So we were literally just building up an FME workspace that would connect the two up. So if you're not really familiar with the concept of the web services, you can see we've got the website that we're calling in here. And that's basically just an FME endpoint, one of the workspaces hosted on FME Flow. And it's returning us some just nice, simple JSON. So very, very simple. But obviously, once that data comes in, that can get presented out into the web client, and obviously then looks really powerful and looks really fancy. So the end users get a nice, rich web experience as they're going through. And essentially all we've got for behind each one of those web services is just an FME workspace. And it meant we could build this out with no real code. So the back-end maintenance didn't need developers or anything complex like that. It was just, we can build some workspaces, we can push this together, stand the services up and put the data out. And that was important longer term because DCC obviously don't have a huge developer resource behind this. They have a huge amount of FME knowledge and skill though. So they can maintain this, they can build this out, they can extend this themselves using the existing tool sets that they're already got and they're familiar with. And again, just using the FME streaming service from FME Flow, we could push that JSON out into that web client. And again, it meant we could extend the web client really, really quickly. If we needed a new service, we just built a new workspace. So it was a really powerful combination of putting the two together. Let's say the workspace is really, really simple. So in this example, we're just bringing in the SQL creator to bring in the data from the database, but it also means we can do some fancy things like we can make sure all the date times are in formats that are going to be human readable. So they're going to be, day, month, year, for example, rather than some really long, big string. We can do some data mapping. So we can make sure that the values that, say, for a depot that the user sees aren't just some weird database value. They're nice and clear for what that user's understanding. And again, it just took away a lot of the development effort from the client and was bringing it back onto the back end where it's really easy in a no-code approach to actually manage all of that data. Again, formatting all of your date times, really easy in FME, didn't have to worry about that downstream. And again, if they need to change it, it's really easy to come in and tweak the attribute value mapper transformer, add a new depot in, change a depot name, for example. You're not pouring into huge lines of code and things as you go through the process. So really, really powerful. And again, we can post information in, so it's not just pulling data out. We can submit data back in through that process and push that into numerous different data tables, do loads of data validation. So again, when we're getting data back, we're making sure that the data coming back meets all the business rules. And again, just like we'd normally build data validation with an FME workflow to check our data, we can build that into those web service processes as well. So it becomes really robust at actually making sure we only get the data in that we want into our system. And again, once we started to think about how we're going to deliver this, we'd spoken a little bit obviously about using the cloud initially. So that meant, well, how are we going to stream this HTML content out? We've got these pages, how do we deliver that? So initially we were putting everything into the workspace. So all of the HTML code, we get an attribute manager, we'd drop that in. We'd started with the report generator transformer on the really initial kind of proof of concepts. But as we started to develop that a little bit more, it's like, well, actually this is getting a little bit clunky to manage. The developer guys are like, well, if I'm writing HTML code, I don't really want to have to go into FME to do that. So what we were able to do is abstract that part out. And we said, well, okay, if you write some HTML, you can make CSS to almost nice pretty styling to make it look good. We can just store that in the FME data repository on FME Flow. And then using the attribute file reader, we can actually just pick those files up when a user requests the HTML page, bundle all of that together and stream that back out. So if we're on FME Flow hosted, that gave us a really powerful way of hosting all the code for the proof of concept, delivering all of that data, but not having to worry about any other additional infrastructure. It also meant some of the developer guys weren't having to worry about FME. They could just write their code, copy it into that folder as they were going along, and everything just worked. It's nice and easy to go through. But as we started to go through the project, it became apparent that actually we could leverage the existing FME server that was in Dublin City Council, and we could leverage their platform. Now, the beauty of Flow is that it comes with a web server. It's using Apache Tomcat if you're going for something like the Express install. So we already had that web server there. So again, we weren't needing to go out for any additional infrastructure. I'm sure a lot of you have worked with IT integrators in the past, and if you ask for a new server, it costs a lot of money, it takes a long time. If you're trying to prototype something or rapidly stand some of these things up to get a lot of business buy-in, that becomes problematic. So we just thought, well, actually, we're going to leverage what we've already got. We can put that code now in FME and we can serve it directly. So the FME server or FME Flow is serving up that content directly into the browser, and then all the web services, and it needs the data, it just calls back to FME again and pulls all that information in. So everything's basically coming from that one server, so it makes it really easy to kind of deliver that. And as part of this process, we wanted to make this really simple. The trades guys are not technical. It's roughly the equivalent of letting me try to do plumbing. It ends badly and a big flood. So again, we needed to make this simple for people to be able to buy into it. So the idea of the progressive web app was twofold. It let us deploy a mobile app out into the user's mobile. So they had the VPN access now, so we could connect that through. But it meant we could literally put the icon on their screen and use it. But we could also do the same thing with the actual depot app as well. So again, we can make it look and feel like an app within their existing environment. And again, this is an idea we got from the existing Flow apps. We can come in within something like Edge, you can set them to install. And that means we can deploy the browser app that's being delivered by FME straight onto the desktop. So when you come in now, you have that icon. So again, it just reduces that training burden, makes it much easier for users to come in. They used to be able to just click on an app and then start to work with it. So they have no knowledge of FME. They don't know how any of that works. It's just there for them. And FME in the background is doing all the heavy lifting quietly. And it's always been one of its strengths is that it just gets on and works. We've had so many customers where FME just works happily in the background and people kind of forget about it. It's just that powerful and resilient. And obviously, once we started to go through, the other part we bumped into was the user management. So obviously, we've got all of these users now coming in. They're still not really fully integrated into the DCC sort of digital environment. So it was going to be a case of how do we manage 400 or 500 different tradespeople coming in. Obviously, nobody wanted to sit in FME and type all those usernames and things in. That was always going to be a bit of a challenge. So what we came up with initially was, again, we could just use a really simple FME Flow app. That was the case of saying, well, if you have a spreadsheet with your data in, you can put your users in, you can manage those, and you can just drag that spreadsheet into the Flow app. There's a workspace behind the scenes that picks that up and then just leverages FME Flow's REST API and connects out to that and manages all the users. So it will do all the inserts, the updates, the changes and things to them as part of that process. So it was quite simple, but worked really well as a proof of concept. But obviously, as the project grew a little bit more, you can imagine that trying to manage anything like this with a spreadsheet is going to end badly. There were spaces coming in that would trip things over. So what started off as a quick win to kind of minimize the impact on the existing GIS team so that the project team could run this rather than having to kind of lean on them, started to become a little bit clunky. So again, we were able to actually just put something a little bit more bespoke into the front end. And we could come in and we can basically just put a wrapper onto those APIs. So we can create new users, we can update their passwords and things, we can assign them different roles, all from a nice user interface, but that goes into the back end and then starts to call the FME Flow REST API. So the FME Flow REST API is really, really rich. It lets us do so many different things to manage the FME server or to pull information out from it. And obviously all that security is available there as well. So we could just tap into that and leverage that and basically just provide a nice user interface around it. And that's made managing users much more user-friendly for them, much easier to do, and actually a lot more of a sustainable long-term result for them. And just in terms of a quick overview of the application, as I say, you can come in, all of the data there is a web service called back to FME. So that's all being brought in. All of the information there is just a JSON packet into that front end, and it's all a single web page. So everything you see here is delivered through one single page served up by FME. We can come in, we can click on the list of available users, which again is just a web service that lists out all of those users. You assign the job, again, that's just posting that information back. You come across the allocated, again, it's just a quick web call back, run that workspace, pull that information through and present it. And then lastly here, we've just got the users. So we can come in if we want to create or manage the users. Now we've got that nice user framework for them. So we can come in, we can give them a new username, first name, last name. We can put the email address in. So if we do need to contact them in the future or want to send any updates, we have that information there. And this is all really just coming off of the back of what FME actually needs to create a new user. So you'll be quite familiar with it from creating a user on FME Flow. The roles, though, are just FME Flow roles customized. So the depot admin is just a role within FME. Tradesperson is a role within FME just presented up as part of that. And then we've also got the mobile app. So as you can see there, it's a nice icon on screen. They can just click on that. It's just been added. We can come in, we get all the details. And again, it's just streamed up to the end user. And all that information is brought through via a web service. They can get phone calls there, the numbers for it. They can also get the map directions if they need to on the phone, but they can also complete the job. And when they complete the job, again, it's just another web service that pushes that information into the back office, records that, and ultimately there's an automation that picks that information up and moves that back and syncs that with the OWN system in the back end. So I think we ended up with about 34 workspaces in total that were providing all of the access information, so that's data into either the two clients, all of the user management piece, and again, just really quick and easy to actually be able to prototype them, add them in as new requirements were coming in. We could easily drop those in. There's a tranche of new requirements we're looking at currently, and again, it's going to be really easy to integrate some of those elements in. So for example, they want to add a telephone or a text message capability. Now there's one that's already has some nice custom transformers that are already available in FME without naming the provider. But it means it's really easy now for us to integrate, because we can take those existing components, we can either drop those into new web services without having to write any new code, or extend some of the existing services to actually be able to submit that information through and deliver that. And we're also then really easy to be able to, it's really easy to build out those data sync workspaces. So it's key not just to get the information into the one system, but it also needs to play across the whole of DCC's ecosystem with all their other systems as well. So the beauty of FME is we can just tap into those services. Again, don't have to write reams of code. There's no new capability that needs to be built there. We just take some existing functionality in FME, and we can use that to connect into things like Oracle to push that data through. So it becomes really, really easy to maintain and integrate on the back end as well as on that front end. And that's just as important, to make sure that part works and to make sure the data is good and valid and is moving robustly around as the front end as well, especially getting that corporate buy-in as it goes through. And that's all through the automations. So that's just leveraging automations with FME, and they're really, really powerful to be able to set these things up to run on schedules, to be able to link that through, and to make sure that, you know, we're moving data, but also if data is not being moved correctly or there's a process problem, and we've had a few issues with connecting to other systems where the other system's been down, you know, that gets flagged up automatically as part of those workflows as well. So it's a really, really powerful capability that we're able to extend into. And I say I shall hand back to Garrett, and he can talk you through some of the benefits, because it's been technically, it's been a very useful integration, but also from the commercial side and the actual return on investment, it's been quite a win.
I think this is something that maybe Mark can support me with. So we presented in Bonn in Germany, as Don said at the onset of the presentation. And when we put our slide deck together, myself and Mark and then some of the wider team in Dublin City Council kind of sat down and started to look at some of the return on investment in terms of savings. And this is what it really comes down to. The technology is amazing, but as Mark had said at the onset, there was this problem where there was inefficiencies, it wasn't optimized, the slow time for insights, to now looking at the outcomes. So from an administration standpoint, there's about 3 hours saved per week per administrator. That's roughly 90 days of administration days saved annually. So that's 90 days put back into the organization for people to be able to look at value add tasks around the organization, a faster time to insight and reduced human error as well. So pieces of paper weren't being lost or coming in with coffee stains or a bit of a breakfast roll on them, etc. On the trade people side, 80 tradespeople saving at least 1 hour a day, which is about 400 hours of time saved weekly, which is the equivalent of 5 full-time tradespeople a month. So that's incredible for Mark. And sorry, Mark, I'm talking to you from muted there if you want to step in, but that's a massive amount of time put back into how efficient they can be for repairs.
Yeah, just to add a few little bits to it. We're doing a few calculations here. We get 60 to 70,000 repair requests annually. So we spend over 100 million, I think it was 113 last year, on this service. So like, if we can imagine saving even at least 1%, which is minimal, that's a massive saving for us. Yeah, and of course the logistics, our staff, as I said, we're now based in one depot on the north side, and yet have to cover half the city and traffic and so on. With this now, our lads can go directly to work in the morning rather than coming in, as Garrett rightly pointed out. Another thing we've been hoping to integrate in, and I think it's going to happen in the new year, 2024, a health and safety issue that we haven't been able to address, and this has given us the forum where we can take this on, hopefully. Also, data. We often want to know where to concentrate more of our plumbers, let's say, on the north side of the city. We'll be able to analyse the information that's the workflows in Fixit and concentrate our resources where they're needed most. There's loads of pluses for this for us. So, yeah, just keep asking for improvements.
And just on that, Mark, I think this is your final slide on the, I suppose, the future enhancements, I suppose, what we've been discussing or planning, hopefully, for the future. Yeah,
the SMS service is something we've been, well, of course, everybody using it now, something we've been looking into for quite some time. We want to text our residents to tell them that we'll be on site between 9 and 11 on a Tuesday morning. So that's going to be really beneficial to us. Many cases, these repairs turn into claims. So pictures of before and after work completed would be very helpful for us. And again, as I said about the health and safety checks, SSWPs are safe practice systems. And this forum has enabled us to, really nail that one home. And again, as I said, analysing our dashboard, managements for 4-person and stuff, we can concentrate plumbers where we need them, painters, trades, all sorts of trades. So yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Thanks, Mark. Poor Gavin will be pulling his hair out with the next set of enhancements. And I think it's over to yourself, Don, for the conclusion.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, you can see why when this one was in Bonn, why we got all excited. It just is an amazing job of showing how using form to build workflows that return HTML pages coupled with FME Flow enables you to just do amazing things and create a full web experience that runs on the desktop and on the mobile device. A few folks had some questions. Definitely, you get a multi-factor authentication. FME Flow hands off the authentication aspect to SAML or Active Directory or Azure Active Directory. So if you use any of those, then you're in great shape. If you use something else, then let us know. And because of course we're always moving the product to the next level. So in conclusion, I think that the team here just demonstrated it perfectly. FME is more than a data mover. Certainly data is being moved back and forth, to enable whole workflows, but it's this just takes FME Flow to the next level. And there's lots of other things that are coming, but I will resist talking about that. And you can just see, how you can put this on top of anything. So, any digital transformation you want to do. We've also had folks refer to these FME Flow apps to build data products within an organization and sort of take the data to the last mile from wherever the data is stored. With FME, you can very easily use FME Flow apps to build data products that then enable people to quickly get the data they want and be self-serve. And you also saw how quickly they were able to use FME Flow to get their initial prototype up and running, which is really great, because then people can really start to see, where this is going. And then, you saw how they just took that prototype and continued to build on it to build a complete solution. So really great work. So for those who don't know about SAFE, just here's some numbers. We've been doing this almost 30 years, and we have an amazing users, amazing partners. IMGS is, obviously one of our best partners. We just love working with them and the work they do. We're just, super excited. So reach out, safe.com, if you have any questions. And then we have some resources as well. So there's an ebook on if spatial data is new to you. Then we have this book. We worked with the organization that does the For Dummies brand. And so if you go there, you can get the Dummies book, Spatial Data for the Enterprise for Dummies. And also the Academy is a great way to, whether you've been using FME for a long time or you're new to FME, it's a 90-minute, really quick run through, hitting form, flow, all aspects of the platform, so you leave with a good idea of the breadth of what FME can do for you. And then from there, you can dive into more training if you want, or reach out to us. I mean, that's one of the things that we really pride ourselves with is we talk about the full restaurant model, which means product and service. And anybody who's worked with IMGS knows that they, they've adopted that, and they're just great as well. So reach out to whoever works for you.
We're always that, Don, if I can just jump in, we run the accelerators once every quarter as well, so anybody's welcome. It's always posted up on the Safe Software website, so again, you can go in and you can see any partners globally that are hosting webinars, but especially accelerators. And as Don said, it's really worth kind of reiterating again, it is a great place to come on, just 90 minutes, whether you've been using it for 10 years and you need a refresher, or if you're brand new, just to get some of those core components to get it. I would definitely recommend it to anybody who is tuned in today.
Perfect. Yeah. And of course, the community, we have a knowledge base. Any question you want, or you want to meet other great users out there, we have an amazing community of users who just love to talk about FME and answer questions and share their successes and things like that. And of course, Elizabeth does a great job running our webinar program. So if you go to safe.com/webinars, you'll be able to see all the past ones and also see the ones that are coming up. And so this one is recorded. So if there's some aspect you want to see again, you'll be able to find it at safe.com/webinars. You'll also get an email since you registered for this one with all the resources as well. So next steps, of course, contact us, or the email addresses of Garrett and Gavin are there. And seeing this is me getting excited again. So there's the accelerator. The previous thing was the academy, which is the academy is all our training, and the accelerator is a 90-minute sort of power block of FME. It's hands-on, but you don't have to install anything. We run the whole thing, or IMGS runs the whole thing virtually, and so it's a great way to just come get exposed to FME. You don't have to, install anything, which is great if you're not allowed to do that. And then for those who are part of our community, you can get your badge, and there's the code there. And and thanks for coming. So Q&A. So let's see, there were some questions, and I've answered them, but I'll run through them again. Some great questions. Is there an API management feature as well? And I said, no, not at this time. And then Bernard asked, is one coming? And I said, work is underway. Yes. So I can't say it'll be part of FME 2024, but we are building this thing called a data virtualization that'll enable you to have build your own open API compliant APIs. And it'll have caching, it'll have security, it'll have all the things that one would expect from that. And then Sandra asks, is there's an offline capability for the mobile app? And the answer to that is no. It's an online app only. We have had organizations who have people in the field, and they will often use email when they collect data to send it back. And so, and then when your device is connected. So anyway, Can we have multiple environments set up? Yes, Dev, QA, UAT, production. And in fact, when is our DevOps webinar, Elizabeth? It's in the next couple of weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, it's November 15th. I think now is a great time for a shameless plug. I will drop that link in the chat.
And we're going to talk, precisely about how to set up multiple environments so that, and then move things through your DevOps workflow. So that's a great question. Wasn't even planted, but it's a good one.
And that is part of our workflow with Dublin City Council as well. So any changes or when Mark comes to us for tweaks, and from a support perspective, again, we have production, pre-production. So again, all those changes get pushed into pre-production for testing, UAT, the proper way, obviously based on the standards of ITIL standards of Dublin City Council. So absolutely great question. And definitely for this particular workflow, all that's adhered to.
Yeah, good, thanks. Is it possible to configure two or multi-factor authentication? Absolutely. At Safe, we run Google Apps, so everything is multi-factor authentication. and on our Flow, FME Flow, we've enabled that. So anybody at Safe who has an account can authenticate, and the entire authentication is handed off to Google. So whether you have to use a Google Authenticator app, which we do because we have multi-step authentication, so your password isn't good enough, and it just plugs right in. So you can do that with Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, and SAML. So at this point, if there's another one out there, like maybe I probably shouldn't even say it, Open Directory or something, then let us know. We can add others, but those are the ones that we do right now. So yeah, and Randy asked about was just getting clarification on how you stream back the HTML pages, and yeah, you were using FME. You built a workspace that actually substituted in the values, built the HTML, and then streamed it back. And are there other webinars highlighting real-world web applications? That's a good thing for Elizabeth to take a note of. But this was and the answer is I'm sure there will be. I sort of hinted at one about taking data to the last mile with, like, organizational data products. And so that's one we see. And, it's really so much better if we can get them with a customer as well, because then it really resonates about it. So, but yeah, fantastic presentation. And yeah. So there
Mark, I'd seen that you were going to answer that question around from Marcus. I'm wondering, what is the advantage of this over a work order management system? I know that was something that you were going to answer in the chat. Did you have a comment on that, or putting you on the spot?
Yeah, just timely, secure information delivered direct to the servers. That's vital for us. The information is on hand, it's live. There's no waiting around for it to go through. It goes in within minutes, and we can update inside. If we get phone calls about a repair, we know it's been done at 11 o'clock that morning, and so on. So it's pretty hard to beat that for us as a local authority. We have, GDPR, and we've been obviously very careful to make sure that we fall within the correct terms of our organisation's policies, So yeah, definitely it works well for us.
Yeah. And Gavin, you might be the best to answer the last one. In terms of UI customization, what options did you guys have as you were building it?
Oh, so we went through a range of different options. So we started with the HTML report generator at the start. So that gives us a nice basic one. So we could build out some of the tabular approaches. We could embed in the links. So some of those very early screenshots were just out of the HTML report generator with a little bit of custom HTML just to make it look pretty along the top there. As that evolved, it did become a little bit more bespoke. So as we started to build through, so obviously we could have used the Flow apps for a lot of it. So a lot of it's still driven from the Flow app, like the user management piece. And then the actual framework was a little bit of custom Angular code to actually bring that through. So that's where some of that sort of more single page web app kind of came from, because it let us leverage that sort of basic HTML capability, but also then drop in that real-time data with all the web services as well.
Perfect. Awesome. Great. So yeah. So thanks. I think that's, yeah. So thanks, Elizabeth, for putting this on. Great job again, and always a pleasure. And Mark, thank you so much for your support and staying late and sharing your amazing story. And Garrett and Gavin, always a pleasure to see you guys, but also to work with you and just to see the amazing work that IMGS does.
Really appreciate it, Don. Absolutely. Well done, Elizabeth. And thanks for making everything so smooth in the background, kind of an unsung hero. But so well done. And again, obviously, Don, it's always amazing to do these co-hosted webinars. And as you mentioned, our contact details are there. So if anybody has any questions, even later on, or if you're going to try attempt something like this yourself, we're happy to share some knowledge. That's the great thing about FME and the community. We're completely open to that. So don't be afraid to reach out to us.
Awesome. Yeah. And thanks for tuning in, everybody, and have a great day and a great evening. And hope to see you at a future webinar. So yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone. See you now. Bye.
All right.